What's going on, YouTube? Back in the garage. Gonna tidy up the driver's side wire tuck. A few odds and ends I got finished. It was pretty much done. I just didn't have a few things. I had to go out and get them. And after that, we were going to tackle the driver or the passenger side, which is a lot more involved than the driver side. But before we start, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. So let's just jump right into it. As I got the car to the point that I can put the fender back on, I'm going to show you what I did on the side here. I went and bought these looming clamps, self-tapped them, 3 of them to the chassis, 2, 3. Then I ran the windshield washer line, and all I did was zip tie it there. I was going to originally put it in the looming clamp too, but it's just too tight to do that. So I just zip tied it to the looming itself, ran it this way, put it through this hole, and it came out that hole. I need to find a rubber grommet for that. I'll have to search around. It's going to take a while to find that one. Then it just runs up. Eventually I'm going to reroute the clutch cable under the intake manifold. I'll hide that. But for right now, I'm going to start digging into this side. Well, first I'm going to put the fender back on this. Then I'm going to dig into this side. The fender's back on. Looking nice. Gotta still do a little bit more cleanup in here. But first, I'm going to start doing a wire tuck on this side. I gotta remove the oil catch can, intercooler piping on this side, and then fender. Then I can start pulling the wires through, snaking them through, and put them in the engine or the passenger floor and start working on how I want to route everything. I got the fender off, intercooler piping, and my oil catch can. Now I'm going to start disconnecting the headlight wire, the horn, bumper, light, turn signal. I'm going to start unraveling all that and start working my way to the firewall. I also have to disconnect the wires that are running into the fuse box here, and I gotta disconnect the engine wire harness. I'm about to disconnect the wiring going to the fuse box. This one here is for your alternator, and this is your power from the battery. Disconnect those, then disconnect this plug and this plug, and unravel it and set the box aside. Forgot to say that you have to undo these screws. These screws are power for, geez, I don't even remember what those are for, but that's the order that they go in. There's a black striped wire in this, black striped wire in the center. Red stripes wire will go to the closest to the firewall, and a little bit thinner wire goes to the front, towards the front of the car. Okay, fuse box, remove that, set that aside, and then disconnect your engine wire harness from all these plugs, and disconnect your wiper motor and your map sensor. Sometimes your map sensor will be up here. Well, on CRXs they're up there, but I'm running a map on top of my throttle body. So disconnect those, and I believe at that point you can start pulling it through the firewall. Another thing I'm going to have to do, you might not have to, but no, you're going to have to undo the power signal wire that's going to your starter. And I'm going, since I've relocated my battery to my trunk, I installed a power box or power split off right here. I just screwed it to the side of the chassis. I'm going to unscrew that, and that has, on the other side of it, that has one big fat gauge power wire that would tee off, one going to the starter, one going to the fuse box up here. But that's going to be in the cabin now, so I have to disconnect that, and I highly recommend getting one of those. I'll show you more of them, more of what it looks like once I get it into the cabin. But yeah, undo that wire, then fish everything through. Alright, I removed the ECU, then I pulled all the wiring through the firewall. That box, that square thing right there, that's the power distribution block. I highly recommend getting one of those to do this. I'm probably going to mount it over to the side over here to distribute the power where I need to go. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to use that grommet again, but I'm going to actually put that on the engine harness and have the plugs of the engine harness just poking right through the firewall, so all my connections will be right up there. It's kind of hard to explain it when I'm just going to do it. I'll just end up showing you. But yeah, all my wires are through. For right here's all for the fuse box, and then we got wiper motor. I'm gonna have to extend the wiper motor. I'm gonna have to extend the power for the starter. I'm going to have to extend the map sensor right here. I'm gonna have to extend those three to go into the engine compartment. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start unraveling this mess so I can get that. Then I'm gonna cut that boot. I'm gonna cut that so I can get it off and reuse it. And I'll show you how I'm going to route the engine harness into the car. In order to make this work, you have to reroute your engine harness. I have the injector plugs running underneath the manifold like I did before. That didn't change. The only thing that changed is normally you have the alternator wiring and oil pressure signal wire. It usually runs right under here. It's all fine and dandy, but in order to you need to have a little extra slack going into the passenger floor, so you can hook up the fuse box again to the wires that to which wires is to the alternator power wire, the power wire that's coming from the alternator to charge your battery. So if you don't do that, it'll be really short. I'm sure you could probably pull it off, but I wanted more slack, so I just moved it so it starts going under the manifold back here, which I might take off the throttle body and get this harness under, so it'll be more back in this section. I think that'll work out good. You shouldn't have to modify your engine harness at all. Only thing you should have to do, might have to extend your fuel injector plugs. That's about it. Not true. Maybe one other wire. Your starter signal wire. It's real tight right here. You might have to extend that just a little bit. I'm going to try to do it without having to extend it. We'll see. But I also rerouted the clutch cable under the intake manifold. I even have a bracket right there to hold it away from the motor. And I'm gonna probably get a tighter bracket, but for right now that'll work. I might just have to flip it, just turn it to the other side and bring the cable more over. You don't want too drastic of a turn, or your clutch cable will have a hard time pulling and it'll just be really rough. After you get your wire, your engine harness rerouted, you want to undo all your looming that used to be in the engine compartment. Then you want to locate your map sensor. It's going to be 3 wires in a CRX. This wire is going to be with it also. I'm not running. This is for I think it's like a purge solenoid for your emissions. I'm no longer running that canister, so I'm just going to tuck down underneath the dashboard. You unravel your map sensor wiring. You don't need to cut it or anything. Run that out to the map sensor, tape it up, put some looming on it. Then you got to make a wire for your starter, a power wire to your starter. Run that through the firewall. Make sure you have it hooked up to your starter, and then at this point you got to figure out how to mount all your wiring nice and neat, a little bit higher than where your ECU is going to be, but yet still accessible to unplug everything that you need to unplug. What I'm thinking is I'm going to, just for the time being, I'll end up zip tying these the way I want them, then figure out how high I want to mount them. They're probably going to be way up there. I'll probably zip tie these the way I want them, then mount them real high up under the dash. Then at that point you can figure out how you want to route your windshield wiper motor, which I'm going to be doing it. There's a hole up in this area that was for my rear brakes. I'm no longer using that. Here's my rear brake line. I did a brake line tuck, so I'm no longer using those, so I'm going to utilize those holes and use it for these wires, which in turn I'm going to have to cut them, and I might not have to extend them. I'm hoping not. I hope I can just cut them and just fish it through and solder them back together. I'm making it so that the engine harness, when you go to pull out the motor, you can just unplug from underneath the dash, unhook the map sensor and the power wire for the starter, and you can pull the motor out. Completely plug and play. I'm going to also have to route the turn signal and headlight wiring, all that happy jazz, just like I did for the driver's side. I'm going to be mounting a power distribution block, probably in this area, somewhere around in here. That will split off for the power to the starter, and then power, I guess will be just power to the rest of the car. Yeah, just take your time, try to plan things out. It might take you a few times. Like, I've done this a couple times before, but still I I had to second guess myself on a bunch of things and redo it and backtrack. It's just the name of the game when you're trying to do some custom wiring like this. Just take your time, do one thing at a time, and everything will work out. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something. That's a bunch of crap. Just take your time and you can achieve anything. A little preview of what it's looking like so far under the engine compartment. I redid the clutch cable, which I might end up redoing again because it seems really stiff. I think the angle is a little bit too tight, so I gotta figure out something for that. Fuel injection, fuel injection plugs are underneath the manifold. I bumped the whole engine harness back so I can get a little bit more lead into the cabin. What else did I do? I ran another power wire. Instead of coming in this direction, I'm having it come out in from this direction, just to hide it more. Oh yeah, like my little cover. I lost that rubber boot, so I cut a old bicycle grip and slapped it on there. She hasn't moved ever. It works. Reused the grommet from the firewall. It's slowly getting there. You just gotta take one thing at a time. It'll get there. Okay, YouTube. That's gonna be it for part 2 of wire tucking. Been doing a lot of wiring lately. I'm kind of getting a little drained of it. So I'm gonna call it quits for right now. I'll be picking it up and continuing tomorrow to finish it up. So please subscribe, hit that notification button, and comment. Give me a like. Till next time, have a good night, have a good day. Take it easy.